Welcome into the Legendary Sports YouTube page. Mike here with Mikah and LQ. We're going to be sticking with the AFC East and reviewing the Dolphins offseason. The Dolphins have made a lot of moves. There's a lot to talk about. So we're going to get right into it. First, I'll give you what they added, what they lost, and who they drafted this offseason. So added Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, Eric Flowers, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Jordan Howard. They lost Taco Charlton and Evan Boehm. Not really big losses there. And then in the draft, the Dolphins were super busy with 3 first-round picks. They got Tua, Austin Jackson, Noah Igbenogany, Robert Hunt, Raekwon Davis, Brandon Jones, Solomon Kinley, Jason Strowbridge, Curtis Weaver, Blake Ferguson, and Malcolm Perry. LQ, we were talking right before we started this that the Dolphins had a lot of money this offseason, and they used it. Those names are well-known names in the league. Byron Jones, a top cornerback for the Cowboys. Kyle Van Noy has won multiple championships with the Patriots. What did you think of these moves that the Dolphins made so far?
Pretty solid moves, man. I believe this is Brian Flores' second year kind of in the helm, actually making those decisions and getting everything in place for the future. These are great, I guess you would say, stepping stones to get to the future that they want to be at one day. They signed Eric Flowers, as you said. He hasn't had the best trajectory, but the last season he definitely, I guess you would say, maybe improved his stock. So that's definitely a great start there. They picked up Austin Jackson in the draft. That's another piece on the line there. So if you got your franchise guy in Tua, you have to put some things around him in place to kind of just make sure that that's firm. So I think they did a pretty decent job.
Michael?
Yeah, I would say kind of just going off that, they created a really good base for what's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 years as far as, the trajectory of this team. We talked about it last time. This division is kind of up for grabs right now. I mean, if you put if you win 3 more games than last year, 4 more games than last year, and then you really start seeing the ball rolling with this team, you're going to see a lot of positives come out, especially with the veteran guys that they signed. I mean, they signed guys with experience in the league, guys who have had success, guys who can fill gaps and give you solid play throughout a long season. And I think the mix of high veteran talent with the young guys who finished the season great last year, with the idea that Tua is going to come in, relatively soon, hopefully next year. You hope he kind of sits and gets truly healthy. And if he's ready to play this year, you might see him this year. But I think that just the trajectory and everything they're trying to do is really falling into place. And just Brian Flores is really starting to get the ball rolling and the ship going with, the trajectory and what he really wants to do with this team. So I really like the moves. I think they filled a lot of good needs. They didn't really lose anything, which is the biggest part. And they had a lot of money to spend, and they did what they had to do.
So with the Dolphins, I think I'm a little bit different. Like, I like the moves that they made. I don't know if it's also like a year too early. Like, yeah, okay, you get a Byron Jones and you spend the big money on him, but Jalen Ramsey's available next year. Yeah, you can get 2 extra wins here, but I'd rather have Jalen Ramsey on a long-term deal than Byron Jones. Eric Flowers, he made the move from tackle down to guard. We saw him with the Redskins each week. He was the most consistent guard. Is that $10 million worth? I don't know. All the guys that they picked up in the draft, Tua, injury problems, hopefully he's able to stay healthy, but if he's not, then who knows. But I think with that pick, you can't go wrong. Like, you have to be able to take Tua, because coming into the season, their goal was to tank for Tua. And you have an opportunity now with the 5th pick in the first round to draft him, so you have to. Austin Jackson at USC. Injuries, not consistent at tackle, and there were a lot of questions. People were confused why he was the number 18 pick. There were other better tackles out there. Worst was out there. Yeah, so it was confusing what exactly they were thinking with Austin Jackson. Same thing with Noah. The cornerback position, I think that was probably the most confusing in the draft. I guess wide receiver too, but cornerback with how early Arnett went, and it was just he was potentially a first-round pick, but a lot of people had him in the second round, and he has some issues here and there. So I feel like their top 3 picks, usually especially first-round picks, those are guys that you get no questions asked. They're going to be usually superstars. Their top 10 are usually superstars, all-pro type of players. Yeah, pick number 30 or closer towards the end of the draft, second round, that's when things start getting iffy. But with the Austin Jackson and then the Noah pick, it's like I like what they did and I like the money that they spent, but is it going to be? Are we going to look at this back in 5-6 years and be like, "Ooh, that was a rough first round for first round for the Dolphins." You're a team that you're not all that great. You did improve as the season went on, but if Tua doesn't pan out to be the guy that he is, if these guys don't work out, you are going to look back and be like, well, they could have gotten like better players at that position, best player available. You're not a team that you're one piece away. They're not a quarterback away. I mean, they're a lot of positions away. So I'm kind of torn between these are players that have risk, but their upside are really high, and it's gonna work out. You know, Byron Jones is gonna work out for you. He's gonna be a shutdown corner. Could have had Jalen Ramsey next year. So we'll see how it works out for the Dolphins. But I want to go into Tua specifically. There were a lot of conversations coming into the season that he was the number one pick. Obviously, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Okuda, all those guys had amazing seasons, and Tua's injury let him drop. If you were the Dolphins, is there any way that you weren't picking Tua with that number 5 pick? Michael?
I don't think there's no way I mean, I think he was the pick really at that point, especially. There was a lot of talk, in the pre-draft and everything that the Redskins could have snagged them at 2, or there could have been a lot of trading or moving parts like that. And, given just how the draft went, I think Tua at 5 was the best player available. I mean, any other way you put it, this is a guy, when healthy, he was probably the most talented passer. Besides Joe Burrow, who had the amazing season with the amazing pieces, they were on the same trajectory going, throughout the 2019 college football season until he got hurt. And then when that shifted and when that happened, everything kind of changed. This is a guy who can be a franchise quarterback, and to get him at 5 is, in my opinion, a steal. I mean, teams kind of didn't want to go that route, and when you have a guy like Tua in a good situation, I feel like with the Dolphins, where he can sit and kind of just see what's happening in front of him, and hopefully down the road, whether it's trade pieces or whether they get more talent around him, they can fill that in. I feel like it's a perfect scenario for him. I do. I mean, I think getting him at 5 was probably the best scenario for him. It's probably the best scenario for the Dolphins too. So I think it was a win for them. You don't really see guys like that all the time, like talent wise. Just especially 2 guys with Burrow and Tua kind of just be available. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it was a great pick for them.
LQ?
I agree, man. At the time that they picked at 5, I feel like it was kind of either Tua or Herbert. Personally, I probably would have went Isaiah Simmons, but we'll talk about that another day. Tua and Herbert. I don't really like Pac-12 quarterbacks in the NFL. Tua's been running that SEC for about a year and a half, man. Up until that injury, when he is the consensus number 1 in every poll to start the season, and I think he probably would have ended that way, even though Joe Burrow definitely had an amazing year. But injury aside, man, I think Tua was probably the best pick there.
Yeah, I do think that it comes down to it's one major injury. There have been small injuries, but I mean everybody has an ankle injury here and there. So I do think that if Tua is able to be healthy, that this is an amazing pick. That's the biggest question with the NFL. They're bigger, faster, stronger. Is his hip going to be able to hold up? That's the number one question. Before we get into our official grades, I have one more question. LQ, I'll start with you here. Sticking with Tua, if you're the Dolphins coach and GM, are you starting to – because Tua said he's ready to go. Are you starting to immediately game 1 of the 2020 NFL season? Or are you waiting it out to 2021 to make sure that everything is clear, that his doctors are checking him out, and that he's now recovered over a year and he's ready to go and that hip is fully healed?
Let me take a look at their schedule here. And week 1 is against the Patriots. Week 2 is against the Bills. Week 3 is against the Jags. I might throw him out there against the Jags, to be honest. I don't throw him out there those first 2 games. I don't really see what the rush is. They were winning situations last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yep. So there's definitely not that much of a fall off. The offense is comfortable with him also. I think Rosen is down there too. Let Rosen battle. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't want I don't want him seeing the field at all this year. I really, in an ideal situation, we talked about it a lot, but I didn't want to see Dwayne, or we didn't really want to see Dwayne Haskins out there either. But that's an ideal situation when you go 0-5 or whatever it was we were. You kind of have to start playing your cards to see the value of players. But I think the Dolphins could, like you said, they have Ryan Fitzpatrick still. They still have Josh Rosen. Don't put him out there. I mean, he's going to be thrown to Devontae Parker and Allen Hurns, bro. Yes, they made offensive line adjustments, but they're still not a top offensive line. Yes, they did get Solomon Kinley, and yes, they did spend high value picks on offensive tackles. But still, this team is not ready for.
They drafted one wide receiver in the seventh round.
Yes, and even then, he's a flex kind of guy. He's a hybrid running back and receiver. They're not in a position to make a lot of offensive plays, and I think just looking at how this roster is set up, they're going to be making on the AFC East, not really being a high-scoring like division. There's going to be a lot of 3-touchdown games, possibly winning you a lot of football games here. So just play it safe. You don't have to really put them out there. Even if they tank it, even if they go, let's say they start 2-6 or whatever it is, and you get to that midway point of the season, there shouldn't be a rush. It's okay. You get.
But the question, if you're 2-6, the question then is like, well, why not develop
the value?
Because like if let's say Tua is able to come out and win a couple of games, you have your guy. But if you're 2-6, you're in the running for the first overall pick. You have Trevor Lawrence, who's been completely healthy. You have Justin Fields, who has had an injury last season with his knee, but besides that, he's been completely healthy. So you have to like want to see what you have with your quarterback. I think that was the reasoning. Obviously, ownership took over with the Redskins saying that Dwayne Haskins needs to go in because we got to see what we have here because all these guys are going to be gone. But if you're 2-6 at a point, you got to be like, well, we have to see what we have with Tua, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely a case, and that's why I kind of mentioned the Redskins example. In ideal situations, you wouldn't want that to happen. And of course, like you mentioned, ownership kind of took over that scenario. But in this case, and specifically this case, I think the Dolphins, just given how just looking at this and seeing the names popping out on the roster and on the screen and everything like that, I feel like they benefit from a lot of trade pieces, and I feel like there's more moves to be made down the road that would benefit Tua coming in later than inserting him mid-season with a roster that's kind of like up in the air, especially if they're in that scenario. I feel like Brian Flores is going to be here for at least another 2 to 3 years, even if they suck, even if they go 1-15 or 2-14, or if you play 17 games, if they go 3-14. I think he'll be here just because of the progression of things and how he's kind of bringing stability back. And I think just doing that, I would rather see him down the road. But like you said, if everything fails and you really want to see the value in that because you're projected for a number 1 pick, then you got to throw him out here for a couple of games. But I just don't think it's necessary. He'll be fine for 2021, and hopefully the roster is way better and in a better position to win.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Personally, I wouldn't want him to play this season at all either. Let Ryan Fitzpatrick take another year with
let Josh Rosen go out there.
Yeah, with
you got to maximize Rosen, man. I feel like they can get at least maybe like 3rd or 4th, but people don't know what he got.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, nobody's been able to see him play, but with like the coronavirus situation and it's like virtual off seasons and with not having the ability to get that like cohesion with your team with OTAs, rookie minicamp, all that stuff. Like you're throwing him into the fire week 1 for no reason at all. Let a vet take that. Let a vet who has been in the league, been in multiple systems, let him go ahead and do that. Tua got hurt November 16th last year. So there's no shot that I'm starting him until we cross that year mark. I probably wouldn't start him until like we cross that year mark of his surgery. So I would hold off on Tua. He said that he's 100% healthy, and if he's
supposed to say that,
if he's saying that he's 100% healthy, and the team is like, you know what, the fans are rooting, fans want him, and they succumb to the peer pressure. I mean, we may see
all it takes is one video, one hit video,
so
one Dak video.
So I don't know. I probably would sit him until next year, and when everything is back to normal and you can get into your OTAs, your rookie mini camps, get that cohesion, know your receivers and everything, then go ahead and start him and run with that because you're another year deep. You have more draft picks. You're able to focus on the offense. Like obviously they focus on the offensive line, but you need to get him receivers. I mean, you can't go from having Judy, Ruggs,
Waddle
to Devontae Parker. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. But Micah, I'll start with you here. What is the offseason grade that you're giving them?
I would give them a solid C. Just because I guess the trend really, and I guess the word for this is just like you don't really know what's going to happen with the moves they made. Like I said, it's kind of a balance of they got a lot of veteran players who could possibly. I don't think this is their last stop. They're kind of in that midst of they were in their primes and they're just now maybe at the twilight of their primes, moving into their final contracts or their later career contracts with a lot of really, really young guys who just got drafted. Rosters like this don't normally succeed, so it's kind of just like this team is built to be average, and I think that's kind of the plan until they can really start getting more players, whether that's trades, whether that's drafting, or whatever, however management wants to handle that. But I think right now it's just average. So I would give them a C, and it's not necessarily a bad C, but it's just like we kind of had to see what happens. So an average grade, a C, is probably where I put them for this offseason.
LQ?
Yeah, I was going in the C direction until I did a little research and I seen how much they were paying for those. Let's just drop that right now. Byron Jones, that's 5 years, 82.5.
Yeah.
Kyle Van Noy, that's 4 years, and that's 51 million. Shaq Lawson, you got 3 years for 30. Eric Flowers, another 3 years for 30. Emmanuel Ogbah, that's 2 years for 15. And not to mention all of the draft picks that you had to sign as well. So, yeah, man, I just feel like they overspent, man. I don't think that the players that they signed were bad. But I don't know if they were trying to reset the market or what their goal was this offseason. I guess try to outbid everybody else's teams. It's kind of like on Madden when you want somebody that bad and you just kind of keep, So
withdraw contract, put it back a higher.
That's looking like what's going on with the Dolphins, man. But like I said, man, not bad signings. I just don't like the value. And I don't think over time, 4 years for Van Noy is kind of a lot. So
yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to. I'm in the C range. I'm a C minus. I like Kyle Van Noy as a leader in the locker room, but for that money, like I don't like him. Byron Jones is cool, but like I would rather have a top tier cornerback. Like he's a really, really good cornerback. Don't get me wrong.
He's like tier 2, bro.
He's not. Yeah, he's like the top of tier
for sure. But that's but
he's getting top of the top cornerback money. So I can't respect it. Like it's just you had all this money, and I understand like, oh, we have to make sure we get playmakers, and that's what they try to do. But you're trying to become the Pats. If you're trying to become the Pats South with getting a bunch of Pats players and all of this, it's not the way to go. They don't overpay. They get rid of people earlier than you expect them to. So yeah, C minus. It doesn't mean that they had a bad offseason. Doesn't mean that like all these guys can turn out and they can maybe sneak a wild card spot if Tua there from week 1 and everything works out perfectly. But from right now, the point where we stand, I think they're a C minus team. And until we're able to see what they actually do on the field, then we can truly evaluate. But from the moves that we've seen here, it wasn't a bad offseason, but it wasn't a good offseason either for the Dolphins. I think they're in the same spot that they were in last year, just with a lot more projected upside than before, because you have no upside with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but now you do have an upside with Tua and your Nose and your Austin Jackson and all these type of players. Maybe it works out, and maybe the Dolphins are in the playoffs next year, and we're like, wow, who would have thought that all of this, and they had a master plan, and we just don't know about it. But that's going to wrap up the Dolphins grade. Consensus around a C minus type of off season. Make sure you go check out our other Jets and Bills videos. And up next we have the Patriots. So for Micah, and for LQ, we'll see you on the next video.